Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I'm your host, Al Richards, and we are here with Joe. Joe, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been wanting to get with you for a minute now, so when I had the opportunity to meet you at the USARA event.
Yeah.
That was, in my recovery, I've actually have been going with, just the flow of wherever it takes me, right? Mm-hmm. And I believe that it did. It led me to run into you and meet you and have this opportunity to discuss some things of my recovery path.
I love it, and I would have to agree with you 100%. We're here to talk about loss today, and with what you were saying, Joe, we believe here on our side that there are no coincidences. And it's just amazing how people can run into one another, especially if they put it out there in the universe and they don't know who it is. We just came back from a summit that we did down in St. George. And see, I'm already getting goosebumps.
Yeah,
I was just in shock.
I had it too.
Just in shock because after our event, we all met up for dinner. And Brad and his wife was at the restaurant, and then me and my wife and my mom show up. And the host is introducing us to our waitress or our waiter. And we get talking, and they're like, oh my gosh, you guys got a pretty big group coming in, huh? And we're like, yeah, there's going to be probably over 25 people that's coming to this. And the gal says, so what was this event that you guys did? It's like, oh, we did. It's called the Healing Utah Success Summit, and it's based around addiction. And she just broke down and started bawling. I mean, right there, she just started bawling, and she's looking at my wife's shirt, and she's like, what does that say on your shirt? And she goes, oh, it's the Other Side of Addiction podcast. She turned around because on the back of our shirts, it has a saying that I use at the end of every show. And she's over there just crying, and she goes, I am 2 months in sobriety right now. And we're like, oh my gosh. So we're giving her hugs. And she goes, so everyone that's coming here today is in recovery? And we're like, probably 95% of them. Yes.
Yeah. Whether it's short-term or long-term recovery. Yeah.
And it was so flipping cool. And then Sunday, the next day, my wife is a guest on a podcast. And this gal that's interviewing my wife, her husband and I, we took off to go have some lunch while they're doing their show. And we go in this restaurant, and we're sitting down, and we're just shooting the shit. And then our waitress comes over and says hi and introduces herself and start talking to her. And my buddy Laban, who traveled 2,000 miles, thank you, Laban and Anna, to come to our summit, starts talking to her. Anyway, we start carrying on this conversation. She's in recovery. And it's like, oh my hell, this is so freaking cool. Yeah. So
it's amazing. My journey's been, it's been a battle. 18 months now.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And I beat a heavy demon, and I continue to do so. But along my way, I've lost a lot. And some relationships I've been able to rebuild and regain trust. Mm-hmm. Other relationships I'll probably never rebuild. I'll never get that back. Whether it's by choice or they've passed on, right? But definitely, I've been riding my recovery wave, and I feel like I'm here for a reason. I've overdosed several times, and just the trauma that even hearing somebody overdose, and my kids were witness to a couple of my overdoses, and I didn't even find out that they witnessed it until just recently, and it really hit me and took a toll on me to to understand the trauma that I caused, you know, with my children. And so I think, you know, a lot of the overdose awareness events that they've been putting on. My wife went to one last night.
Yeah,
and,
my wife and I was there last night too, at the state capitol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to wear, you know, the overdose awareness shirt today for the podcast, but my new job has me working some early hours, and so the wife wasn't even up yet. But
yeah.
But yeah, you know, I had a career, you know, in the telecom industry for 26 years, the same company for 12. And I started out with a legitimate opiate prescription for my legitimate pain. And along the way, I lost control. You know, I lost control of I was following my prescription, and then I started getting some procedures done. The radio frequency procedure is supposed to burn the nerve and grow back undamaged. Well, once I started getting that, then the doctor started taking me off of my dosages for my pain meds. And the procedure wasn't giving me a lot of relief for a long period of time. Some good relief for a short period of time, but I still needed that quality of life to be able to go and do my everyday stuff. But he started cutting me down, and you know, when you start losing what you have and what you've had going for so long, I mean, that's a loss right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and at the time, like, I didn't have any coping skills for any kind of loss. And so at that time, I went right to the streets, you know, and found prescription pills and started buying them, and it got really expensive. But I was trying to at least get back to what I was used to in my dosage. And from there, you know, when you start running out of money, then you try to find something cheaper, and I found heroin.
Yeah.
And for 3 years, you know, 3 straight years, I was on heroin. And when you're an addict like that, and you have something in your life every single day, when you have that moment of clarity and you're like, I need to stop. I need to quit doing this. I can't, my life is, you know, slipping away. Everything, I was losing, you know, the trust of my kids, the trust of my wife, trust of my immediate family members, you know, and I didn't know how to regain control of my life, and that's all I wanted. And when I had my moment of clarity, it was like, you know, I need to stop this. I need to give this up. And I started reaching out to recovery programs and trying to find a place that I could go into. And to be honest, the resources that are available for somebody who is holding a job and has health insurance, they're very slim, you know, and they're not that affordable.
You're right.
And so trying to find, you know, a good balance of my you know, finances and get into a program, like I couldn't do it. And so I do believe that everything happened for a reason, and I lost my job. You know, that's another loss.
Yeah.
And again, I haven't been in a program at this time yet in order to gain some coping skills and or some tools to deal with loss. And even as a young child, you know, I wasn't given any kind of skills or taught how to cope with loss. You know, there were times where I went with my mom and we went to some viewings for people, and a lot of it, I didn't even know that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so I didn't really know what was going on or understand what was going on. And like, really, it didn't occur to me that this person was never going to walk the earth again. You know, like, okay, well, you brought me to see somebody laying in a casket, and that's cool. And, you know, just walked away and went on about my merry life. And when you don't, you know, she didn't talk to me about why we were there and what was happening. And, you know, and you don't learn that until you start going through those experiences yourself and seeing people that you were close to that you lose and, you know, that pass on. And you know what happens, right? Like, you'll never see them again in the physical form. But dealing with that loss, because, again, if it's a person in your life every single day and you're used to seeing that person, having that relationship and that connection with them, and then all of a sudden it's gone, it's just the same with your drug, you know. And you have to have that relationship, and when you have your moment of clarity that you want to finally give it up, and it's a huge loss.
It's probably very fearful, right? And the reason why I say that is when my wife, all the many times too, I think she went to 7 or 8 rehabs, and the struggle of watching her, one of the things that she told me, she goes, one of the biggest fears I have is that I will never, ever be able to have alcohol ever again. And it's because she's had it in her life for so long. Even at one time, she was just a social drinker. You know, it was, I mean, I remember even when we were first dating, you know, we'd go to parties or we would have people come over to her place and, you know, we'd play cards or some games, and it was just social drinking. None of us ever really got hammered. You know, you got a little buzz going on and having a good time. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about it this past weekend because some of the people that we were hanging out with, they drank every single night. Every single night. They had a cooler out there on their patio, and it was filled with beer. And when we were going back to our Airbnb, she was saying, she goes, and she's I'm working on her not to use this word, the hate word. But she goes, I just hate myself that I have allowed myself to get so far where I cannot be a social drinker like I used to be. And she still, even though she's coming up on 21 months sober, it's still affecting her, going, I just cannot have a drink of alcohol ever again. No. You know, and she tried going back. Okay, I've been sober for 6 months. And the reason why she was sober for 6 months is because she was in a recovery center for 6 months. She gets back out and she thinks, I got this handled. And it just comes back stronger and stronger every single frickin' time. You know, so was that fear there for you as well? I mean, going, gosh, I've had this and this is how it makes me feel. And what if I'm not able to ever feel this way again?
Yeah, well, and so as addicts, we fear the unknown, right? Like we haven't seen sobriety in how long? You know, if we were able to go use one day and not use for 3 and then use again for 1 day, then we wouldn't really have a huge problem, right? Mm-hmm. We'd still have a problem, but it wouldn't be as big and it wouldn't be as big as beast to beat. But we're addicts and we can't do that. Like, we can't use 1 month and not use the next. You know, it's just not in our nature. Like, if we end up having a drink, right, then it leads to another drink and another drink and another drink. And by the end of the night, then you're trying to get some cocaine so you can drive home.
Yeah.
You know,
and
just
then
so you sober heroin up a little to go bit. To bed, and then meth to get up and go to work in the morning. You know, like, it's just a vicious cycle, and that's where we have to make that choice. Am I in this recovery for me, or am I in this recovery because I'm required to go into this program, right? And I can just go back to what I was doing before. But that's not that was a fear that I had. I did have the fear, and I didn't know what was lying ahead, right? But when I made that conscious decision to enter into a recovery program and to work the program, like, anybody can go into a recovery program, right? But if you don't drink the Kool-Aid per se and work your program and really figure out, like, where you don't understand who you are, right? And if you open up and express how you're feeling and really dive into yourself and find your true self, then how are you going to ever help somebody else or help your kids, like I had to earn that trust back with my kids after so long of losing it and nobody believing anything I said, then man, I had to find ways to rebuild that trust and show them that I was working my program and diving into who I wanted to be, right?
Yeah.
Because I've been this person already now for so long, like I didn't know who I was. And so when I was in my program, like there was a lot of things that I would share and that I would do, and one of them was the MRT program that I did. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's a moral recognition therapy program. They do it in a lot of prisons, but I was fortunate enough, and I actually chose to do that program after I was done with all my court required classes and whatnot. I asked to go into the MRT so I can further my knowledge and gain some more tools and coping skills and build my tool belt bigger so that I could walk the streets alone. Because that program wasn't always going to be there, and they actually gave me a lot of tools and understanding of, once things are lost, like you can always remember them, and go back into your memories and think about them. But material things are going to be lost and gone forever, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because
you can always go buy another one, right?
Yeah. And for a long time, I walked around angry a lot, and I couldn't really understand why. And after my program, I figured out, oh, okay, so this is why I was angry for so long, and what can I do to change that? And the MRT program really helped me through that.
And I love the topic loss, because I really do feel that every one of us out there are struggling with some type of a loss. And when you said that when you went through this program to help you figure out who you were, when I lost my job in 2009, of 24 years, I thought I was a pretty good person. And I had my standards that I thought was held pretty high. And there was people that I worked with who we'd been friends with for years. And, they started coming up to me even going, yeah, you're a good friend, but couldn't really trust you. And I'm thinking, why? I've never stole from you, and I've always respected your home and your family and things like that. And when they explained it to me, that really opened my eyes. And so I was kind of like the weekend partier. I had a stressful job and a lot of responsibilities. So every Friday and Saturday it was cocaine and drinking beer. Sunday cleaned my act up. Friday came along, same thing. I did that for years. It's always the Friday and Saturday thing.
Weekend warrior, right?
Always Friday and Saturday thing, yeah. And my wife didn't even know. She knew I was drinking. She didn't know I was doing the other thing, and I hid it from her. And so when I lost my job, I'm like, I need to figure out who the hell I am. I can't, and it was a struggle for me, and I'm still working on it to this day. The way I see it is there is no finish line. I'm constantly going to work on being a better person. I can't imagine when you are dealing with a full-blown addiction where it's like an everyday thing and you have to have it just to function. I can't imagine adding that in with already trying to figure out who the hell you are as a person.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be, for me, that would probably just be added stress on top of what you were already going through, because your body's so used to having something that it doesn't have anymore.
Yeah.
And knowing that you need to get this completely out of your life. I mean, it's not like if you hang around someone that really causes you a lot of heartache and discomfort and drama. It's, I don't know, for some people, I guess maybe it is. For me, it's like, I don't need this shit in my life. Just, I'm done. It's easy to walk away. But that's not something that you have in your life on a daily basis.
Yeah. So, I mean, with heroin, it's, and I've heard this my wife keeps saying this saying, but it's the first time you use is a choice, right? And from then on, it's not. And there was a lot of maintenance, right? Like so that I didn't get sick. And I thought that, like, psychologically, I thought, oh, well, if I don't have this, I'm going to be really sick and vomiting and this, that, and the other. But I feel like a lot of it is very mental, and it's a way that we think. And because before, when I was using just prescription pills, I didn't even know what withdrawals were, and if I didn't have them during the week or my prescription had run out, like, I would go to work and I would function just fine, and until I started educating myself a little bit more and figuring out the opiate addiction and what everything is that comes with it, and they talked about the withdrawal symptoms and those that come with not using your opiates, and then I started to notice them, right? And I didn't notice them before. I didn't even feel any type of way, but until I had that knowledge, then I would start seeing it and figuring and understanding what my body was going through, and I can't even remember prior to that if I had symptoms.
Wow.
It's kind of like seeing a certain color car, or you start driving a new car, and then all of a sudden you start seeing them
everywhere.
Yeah. But that's the same type of thing. So I really feel like a lot of it is us telling ourselves through our addiction that we cannot survive without this drug.
Oh yeah.
And it makes us sicker and sicker and sicker when we don't have it, if we keep telling ourselves that. But I'm very thankful for the MAT, medically assisted therapy, to come off of it. That's really helped me.
That's good.
I think right now I'm also experiencing another loss. I had my medical card for marijuana to use, because I do have legitimate pain. I was diagnosed with spondylosis and sacroiliitis, and it's arthritis growing up my spine.
Oh, geez.
And eventually, I don't know when, and I'm not going to live my life, up to that, thinking that, oh, well, I'm going to be in a wheelchair anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit back and act like I'm already in one. So and now I have to do physical labor because of the loss of my job that I had, and it was a career, and getting back into that same industry has been a challenge since my addiction, and I don't know if it's just where the industry's at or the economy, or anything like that, but right now I'm finding different pathways. Like I said, my recovery is taking me down this journey, and now I'm working toward my CDL. Like, who would have thought?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Which brings me to the loss that I'm currently going through, which is I had to give up my only thing that I could do to relieve my pain.
Yeah.
And
legally, right?
And legally,
yeah, and help you out, yeah.
And it was great while I was working construction, which was a bigger strain, and it caused a lot more pain than this job will probably cause. But I feel good. I don't feel like I think it was easier for me to do this now, after I've gone through my program and figured out ways to cope.
Yeah.
But there's still mood swings, and I think that's part of the process. But yeah, I mean, I really want to try some yoga, which will help.
It's pretty good, actually. Yeah, I've done the yoga, and when I finish my workouts in the morning, I still do some yoga stretches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is amazing what it can do.
Well, everybody wants to be able to work as long as Tom Brady has, right?
Yeah. Does he do yoga?
He does some body management.
Does some body
Absolutely,
management. Yeah.
Stretches, and his coach, his body coach, tells him that you got to be able to bend and not break. Which makes a lot of sense. I mean, when we get older in age, then our bones get a little more brittle and fragile, so it totally makes sense.
We do stiffen up. Of course, and I'm not a big Brady fan. He's a damn good quarterback, though. I mean, I got to give him that. He didn't win all these championships being a crappy quarterback.
Yeah.
And he's very, very smart. He's been blessed, though, too. He's had a great line that's helped protect him so he doesn't get his ass whooped some of the other quarterbacks. But yeah. And, and again, while we're on this subject of loss, it kind of goes back with some of the stuff I would share with my wife. So many times when she would be coming out of the alcohol and her brain would start rolling and she's like, I've lost everything. I've lost the grandkids. I'm about ready to lose you. I have family members that don't want to talk to me anymore. And she would just start building this list. And I would scratch my head going, you're losing all this because of alcohol, but you're not willing to lose alcohol to gain all this stuff back. And it was so hard for me to understand. And not being on the addiction side, I may not ever really understand it because I haven't walked those shoes. She gets it, and I'm sure you get it, and a lot of the other people we've had on the show get it. But it's like you're seeing things slip away constantly.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine even just losing my kids, even losing our grandkids. I just couldn't imagine that because they are such a huge part of our life. To have something else that's in my life that I feel like I extremely need to function and get through life, but I'm willing to give everything else up, and I was wrong by doing this, and I'll be the first one to frickin' admit it. I used to tell my wife all the time, you love that shit more than you love me. And she's like, no, that's not true. Well, that's how I'm seeing it. And I was so wrong. I knew she loved me. I didn't realize the battle and the hold that shit had on her.
Yeah.
Because again, us on the other side, we don't get it, and I don't know how many times I told her, just stop. Because I can go have a drink and not have another one, or I can choose not to have one, That's how I always thought it was for her, because I saw her do that in the past, and it's a really tough one, and I'm glad that again that you brought the topic up as loss, because you lose so much. And I think one of the things that my wife has shared she really, really regrets, even though she didn't get to see the grandkids for a long period of time and different things, it's the loss of herself, her own self-worth, and she has shared some stuff. She's come honest with me, and she could have put herself in some pretty bad things where, the way she was brought up, she knew better than that. And she come really close of following through with some of those things just because of the addiction.
Yeah.
And, that was another thing that ate her up, and the shame that she put herself in that situation and come that close of moving forward with. And, just the loss of her own self-being, of knowing. However, I do believe that people like my wife and like you, Joe, who have worked your asses off to get to where you are today, I think it really has helped mold you and to become such an incredible individual. And sometimes I get emotional talking about it, and it's because I have the honor of sitting down with people like yourself. I mean, to me, it is. We joke around here that it's therapy Thursdays, because that's how I look at it for me. The stuff I get to learn from people who have gone through the addiction, it's like, man, why the hell am I not looking at life this way?
Yeah.
Because you guys have battled your freaking asses off to get to where you're at. We all battle stuff. But when you're battling alcoholism or addiction, it doesn't matter what kind of addiction it is. It affects the brain the exact same way. And to change who you are as an individual to a person probably who you never thought you'd be. Because my wife says that to me all the time. She's like, I would have never, ever thought I'd be who I am today because I never looked at myself that way.
Yeah, you don't see yourself sober ever. And, you're exactly right. Like finding ourselves and understanding who we are is probably our biggest feat. But my biggest loss during this was, I still don't talk to my oldest daughter.
Wow.
She disowned me because of my use. And that hurts.
I can imagine it does. Yeah.
But,
yes, definitely.
Talking about it definitely helps me get through it. She still accepts my text messages, so I can still let her know that I'm here for her any way that I can be, that she'll allow me to be.
Yeah.
And for me, it's more like I have to be okay with her taking the time that she requires in order to come back.
Yeah.
And help build our relationship back up, because I can't do it alone. But I can be there, in any way, and be available for her at any time. And that's all I can do right now. But, she's struggling.
And I can understand why, it's my wife. It's not my dad or it's not my mom. And I couldn't imagine the pain and how hard that is for you, because we all do need our time because of what the addiction has done to everything around us, and there's still times that I struggle. Here's my wife coming up on 21 months, and there are times I still I'll get a freaking trigger. Now that I understand triggers, I get triggers just like she does. And it's really helped me again by doing this show and having individuals like yourself and come on the show, because now I know how to communicate that with my wife to where I'm not pointing the finger at her. It's, hey, I'm having a moment here. It's my deal. Let me deal with it.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with you. It's just, this is what's, I'm feeling a certain way because of what's happened. Not blaming you, because again, it's how I'm seeing it. Just let me chill. And we had a conversation probably about 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, and I don't even remember what it was about. And she was getting upset with me, and I had to stop her, and I'm like, hey, stop. I have every right to feel this frickin' way the way I'm feeling right now because of what you put me through.
Yep.
Just let me have my time. Let me figure it out.
You got to process.
I'll be back. Just let me go through my steps, just like I have to allow her to go through her steps. Whether I like it or not, I have to allow that to happen because that's part of her recovery. Because who am I to rush it? Because I still don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Even though I get to do all this, I still won't understand things 100% because I've not walked in those shoes. So, yeah, and I'm happy to put you guys in my prayers, more than happy. And I do believe that in time, God works in so many different ways. And I do believe in time, maybe he'll slowly just start pulling that curtain back a little bit to where it's opening a little bit more, who she has the opportunity now to see the new improved father,
Yeah. I have, I believe that'll happen. But and everybody I talk to tells me the same thing, just give her time and let her process and deal with things the way she needs to deal with. And it may not be, a short period of time where we reconnect, but eventually it will happen.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that's been my biggest struggle through sobriety is not being able to rebuild that relationship. During my use, I also lost my grandma.
Those are tough ones. Yeah, those are tough ones. Yeah.
She was probably the closest person to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably the one that stood by you through it all too, huh?
She was the only one that unconditionally loved me. You know? And I felt it.
Yeah.
And I knew it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I struggled so bad with my addiction, is because I was anticipating the loss of her. I don't know. I don't know for sure. But I did the same thing when I lost a close cousin. And that was back in the early 2000s. But I was able to come out of that addiction as well. And then I had some good time under my belt for sobriety, and then lost control of the opiates and went down a wrong path, a different path. I won't say it was wrong because it led me here today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be honest, like, I don't know where I'm going in life right now. I'm just seeing where everything takes me. And my recovery has been the first and foremost important thing, and it was for me. And along my recovery journey, I've been able to reconnect with my kids, at least the two of them, and regain their trust. We struggle as a family here and there, and we're still working on, all of us, and we don't know everything or all the answers, and so there's arguments still, but I think they're handled in a very different way now, and that's part of that's the results of my recovery. I know that for a fact, because I haven't been able to be this person before my entire life. And I'm enjoying it. I'm learning. Every day I learn something new about me.
Yeah.
But the journey's definitely been a struggle. Not even a struggle, but it's been hell.
I can imagine.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm still struggling, in everyday life, but there's days where I feel like I've pulled the dirt off of my mouth, and I can finally catch a breath, and then all of a sudden somebody throws another shovel of dirt right back on top of me, but I roll with the punches. I still have my sobriety. So whatever I'm doing to cope now is helping. And there's a lot of times where I just have to go lay down.
Yeah. Yeah. Take that breather.
And some days where it's the biggest relief that I just made it home.
Yeah.
But man, every day I make it home, I'm thankful.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and everything that we regain throughout our lives at this time, in our sobriety, and everything means so much. Like when you interview for a job and you get a job that's going to give you some, some future plans or some health benefits or 401k, it's a big win, and we appreciate it a lot more because of what we have lost.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't recommend to
go
anybody.
In that direction.
But but it does. It opens your eyes for to remember things that you forgot about along the way, and I'm very happy and very, very thankful for everybody who's been involved in my recovery process. I mean, if it wasn't for some of the counselors, clinical consultants, that I struggled at first, and I couldn't deliver a clean UA, and that without them being understanding of where I was at, and not pushing me out the door, but finding different ways for them to still keep me in the program and have me just work myself into my program at the speed that I needed, or the pace that I needed to do it myself.
Yeah.
And my PO, man, there were times where he was ready to violate me, and send me to jail. And at that time, my wife was still locked up. She was in jail, and we would have lost our kids into the system.
Wow.
So if it wasn't for him and, his understanding and compassion and knowing and seeing something in me, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
He had to see something in me.
Yeah, I agree.
For him not to violate me and send me back to jail and do a long period of time. There was one of my charges I was facing 25 years.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And I didn't even do it. But it was there, but that would have been, I couldn't imagine if my kids would have been put into the system,
Just think where life would be for you right now, for you and your wife, if it wasn't for people like that to understand and open their eyes.
That first clean UA, and I never delivered a dirty one after that, man. And I still haven't.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So, and that feels good for me to say.
Oh yeah.
And there's people who probably still don't believe that I have 18 months, or there are times where my behavior is changing and they have their suspicions, or they don't trust me still, and and that's okay. That's their feelings, and they can have that.
It's their thoughts, yeah.
But for me, I know my truth, and nobody can take that from me.
Yeah. Amen. Well, we're going to take this time right now to go to a quick commercial break, but stay back because we got a second half that's coming up.
Have you ever been in a car accident? Do you know what to do after being in a car accident? Are the insurance companies going to take care of you? Hi, I'm attorney Rick Heaton with the Law Office of Bobby Udall. I will help you through the process and answer all of these questions. I give every single client my cell phone so they can talk to me whenever they need. Let me deal with the insurance company so you can focus on getting better from your injuries. Call me at 385-330-0226. Again, my cell phone number, 385-330-0226. Don't call the insurance company first. Call attorney Rick Heaton at 385-330-0226.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Good morning, this is Leticia with Computer Hospital. We are your computer repair experts for both PC and Mac. We are your community resource for all of your computer repair needs. What makes us different is that we want to fix your computer. We also do free diagnostics. We charge a flat rate labor, which means that you won't pay by the hour. All of our computer repair is done in-house with a fast turnaround time, and same-day service is also available. Feel free to stop by anytime without an appointment. We're located in Sandy at 8721 South State Street. Again, that's 8721 South State Street, or call us at 801-987-3993. Again, that's 801-987-3993. 987-3993. This is Leticia with Computer Hospital, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello there, this is Brad Neufeld with the Resilience Talk Network, and I would like to introduce to you Taffy Town, one of our newest sponsors. Let me introduce you to Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Taffy Town. We're proud sponsors of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Taffy Town is a family-owned and operated business still operating in the Salt Lake City area for over 100 years. We manufacture some of America's best saltwater taffy.
What makes Taffy Town stand out from all of the others?
We have a unique recipe, a whipped-style recipe that incorporates egg whites, evaporated milk, real sea salt. It's a unique product that is flavorful, melts in your mouth, and the best part is we probably have a flavor for anyone's liking, a flavor for any reason, for any season. We have unique flavors like chicken and waffles, maple bacon, frosted cupcake. New this year was a pineapple ghost pepper flavor.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about Taffy Town and all of its products?
You can check all of this stuff out. All of our products are available for sale on taffytown.com. We ship for free from our website, so all of our pricing on there is shipping included. Oftentimes we offer special promotions and discounts to our loyal customers, so do be sure to sign up for an account. And we look forward to seeing what we can do to make you smile with our taffy.
Where are you located?
We are currently located at 9813 South Prosperity Road in West Jordan, Utah, just at the foothills of the Copper Canyon Mine.
Derek, taffy has always been a great gift to give. What are some of the creative ways Taffy Town can help say thank you to others?
Yeah, if you're looking for gift ideas, whether to say thank you to friends or family, or maybe to your clients after such a difficult or successful year that you've had, you could look no further than to get a gift idea from taffytown.com. We offer pre-packaged gift boxes that say that it's saltwater taffy from the city of the Great Salt Lake, and it tells a little bit about the history of our community and making candy for so long. You can also do customized gifts to pick out just the right flavors or colors of candy for that special someone and deliver even a personalized message in that box to them. So please feel free to check out taffytown.com for any gift ideas this season.
Thank you so much, Derek. Please visit taffytown.com, that's taffytown.com, to find out more about the products and services that Taffy Town offers. You won't be disappointed.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the other side of addiction. We're here with our special guest, Joe, and today's topic, we've been talking about loss. However, here in the second half of the show, right before we finished up there, before the commercial, we were talking about the trust type of thing. And I like going there as well, because it's taken me some time to get to where I could trust my wife. You know, we had a guest on the show, last year, and he ended up being my guest co-host for a while. And he basically said, Al, if you think about it, you was addicted to your wife's addiction. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. But you are 100% right. Because the times when she told me she wasn't drinking and I knew she was drinking, I did everything I could to catch her drinking so I could say, see?
I was right.
I told you. Yep. And it has been a fight for me. So I still get my triggers, as we talked about on the first half. There's still some times where I get my triggers. And I have to fight to go, okay, wait a minute. I have to trust that she's telling me the truth. It doesn't do me any good to follow her around, sneak behind her, watch every move that she makes to see if I can catch her, because that's a part of life that we went through for a lot of years that I don't want to step foot in again.
Yeah, can you imagine the energy that you put in that? If you put that energy into something else,
yes,
where you would be today.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you nailed it. And again, during the addiction, yes, there's a lot of trust that's lost, you know, and rightly so, because there's a lot of lying, deceiving, and, you know, my wife will even be the first one, and our guest on our earlier shows said, you know, us addicts, we're selfish as hell, all get out. It's all about us. We don't give a shit about anybody else. We just care about us, and everything that's happening is their fault, not ours. But again, that trust, it took me a long time. And as I said, she's coming up on 21 months sober, which will be the 9th of September. And every once in a while, there'll still be something that kind of triggers that thing. And that's something, again, I have to work on. Okay? It's nothing that she's doing wrong. It's my own issue that I have to go, okay, wait a minute, I need to step back. And you know, I remember a lot of times, Joe, when she was going through some sobriety before, and she'd get out of a rehab and she's like, okay, well, you can never drink around me again. And she's laying down all these rules, you know, and I would get upset. And then also at other times I'd understand, and I'm thinking, okay, well, wait a minute, I got to change my life because this is how your life is. But as time started getting, I still like to have a drink every once in a while. And especially if we go out like camping or something like that, I like to have a seltzer every once in a while. I've not drank beer for umpteen years. I don't even know how long it's been. I do love whiskey and Coke. But it's so funny, this past weekend, we were going on an ATV ride with some friends. And I only took 2 seltzers with me. That's it, just 2 seltzers. And there was an area where I needed to have both hands on the wheel. And I didn't want to put my seltzer in the cup holder because the road was pretty rough. And just not even thinking, I handed it to her. Yeah. And I'm driving, and I get ourselves through the situation and get back, and she hands it to me, and she goes, I can't believe you just did that. Like, what? And then it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I just handed you an alcohol beverage. And she goes,
it's okay.
Don't beat yourself up. Yeah. She goes, that just showed me how much you trust me.
Facts.
And I went, oh my gosh, because now 6 months ago, would I have done that?
No.
I don't think I would have.
Brought it around, or,
No. So again, it's, working through that trust. And I've said many times to my wife, even during the depths of her addiction, and like, trust is something that you got to work your ass off to earn.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take much to freaking get rid of it. I mean, it's gone in a heartbeat. And that statement that trust takes it takes a lifetime to build trust, and it just takes a second to lose it. That's pretty true, right? I mean, when you hurt people, And you don't have to be going through an addiction to hurt people. You can hurt people without even having an addiction. But to build that up, and you said you've got the relationship back with your 2 other kids, and you're still working on the one with your oldest daughter, and certain family people, and there are others who just said, no, I just rather stay away. So,
and then some on my choice, you have to keep everybody at an arm's length, and choose and pick and choose whoever's going to be the most positive influence in your life going forward, and who's going to be the one that encourages you and fills you full of positivity, and because as an addict we like to dwell on a lot of things, and talking about alcoholic beverages, I mean, whiskey and Coke was my go-to, at one time. And to this day, in my sobriety, when I go home, I put a Coke on ice in a cup, every day.
Yeah.
And I think, there's times where it does send my thought process into, do I want to, I want to drink, but there's a lot of times where it's like, this is satisfying for me. This is what I need to put that urge at bay, so to speak. And I've been talking with some guys at my new gig here, and I'm actually working my CDL to drive a beer truck.
Isn't that ironic? Right? I think you shared that with me at the USARA thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how freaking ironic is that?
And they're like, well, how do you do if you're in recovery? Like, how do you deliver this product every day? And I said exactly that. Like, it's just product.
Yeah.
It's just product to me. Like, you put a product in front of me, I'm gonna move it. And that's all it is. Not only that, but I mean, nowadays, I spilled one the other day. And, it just starts spraying everywhere, and it got me soaking wet, and I just smelled like beer, and it just wasn't appealing, and it doesn't trigger me to want to drink.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, there has been some thoughts in my process here that how somebody could get away with drinking on the job, and I don't know that it's necessarily my thoughts of me doing that,
right
but it's just things that I guess my mind's going through and trying to figure out, like, who I could have help me in this role, and maybe come in and once I do get my CDL, that they could be my helper. And a lot of people that I talk to and that I think about are in recovery as well, and I'm like, no, that probably wouldn't be good. Like, this is what that person would do,
Yeah.
The criminal thinking part. But I can't imagine, like, I'm thankful that I've rebuilt that trust with my immediate family, for them to trust me to go and drive this beer truck around, and my cousin that got me onto this job, he trusts me, and I've done that. I've rebuilt that trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the things that I do, and the things that I've been able to show them, and that feels good. There's not been a time where there's been a surprise UA at my house or anything like that. I've regained that trust, that they know me well enough, and I know myself well enough, that I'm not going back to that life. In every control that I can do in my life, I will not go back down that path. I can't say that it won't happen.
Right. Yeah. How can you?
Because I'm an addict.
Yeah.
But I can tell you every day I am working something through my program to help me cope and help me deal with everything that I'm dealing with every day, to keep me sober.
Yeah.
And I will continue doing that every day, each and every day, one day at a time.
I think we all need someone that we can count on when life is throwing us a curveball, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who, don't take illegal drugs or drink alcohol. They take a lot of prescription pills,
Right.
thinking it's okay because their doctor gave them a bottle of Xanax. Well, it's not going to hurt to take a couple Xanax while I'm at home because I had a bad day.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially when there's alternate medicines
Yeah.
that are non-narcotic.
Non-narcotic that will help.
Which
yeah.
us addicts have, for maybe some anxiety or depression or whatever it is that we're dealing with. There's other alternative medicines.
Oh yeah, and good ones. I was, like I said, Janan and we were on a guest on a podcast down in St. George when we were down there. Jared Miller works for Steps Recovery down there, and he does a podcast. I believe it's called I Am Recovered, and he sells a product, and it helps with anxiety, and it's all natural stuff. And my wife battles with anxiety. I'd like to get her off the prescription pills and get her on these, and I just actually purchased a bottle from him. He gave us a pretty good discount on it just to purchase the first bottle, hoping that she will try, because I would rather have her take that than the synthetic crap,
Yeah.
And to get back to the trust, you were talking about your probation officer and all the opportunities and stuff that he gave you so you guys didn't lose your kids. My wife had a probation officer, and I really liked the guy. I thought he was cool because she has had others that were just complete, I'm just going to say complete pricks, just assholes. It's like, here's another one. Let's just get them out of here as quick as possible. When they would have to come over and do their checks, they always came through, walked through our apartment, checked the refrigerator, which is really uncomfortable for me. However, I understood, but it got to the point where every time they came in, they didn't find anything. And she was doing so well going through her program, he would just basically come in and I'd let him in, and both officers, because he always came in twos, come in and, hey, what's up? How's everything going? Talk to her for like, I don't know, a couple minutes. And it's like, okay, well, don't forget our meeting on such and such day. And they're out the door. And I remember a couple times Janan saying, it feels so freaking good knowing that he can trust me, that he's not going to find any alcohol in here, and I really do believe that trust that he gave her, and even me working on some of the trust, not saying that it's us because it's not, it really helped in her recovery. Knowing that, oh my gosh, I'm finally getting something back that I thought I was going to lose forever. Even if it was just a little gleam of light.
Yeah. And, the probation officer at first is a stranger, right? And you're trying to regain trust of a stranger who you're going in there, and they know why you're there. And even though you're upfront and honest with them that you're using still and you're trying to cut it down, like that's not what they think.
Oh yeah.
And they already have their prejudgment already based off of your paperwork. And that's, in order to take that and turn that person around, is a huge success, man. It's huge. And if I didn't have, because I went in first meeting and I told him, look, I'm still using, I'm trying to quit, I want to quit, I'm looking for resources, and he put resources in front of me, so to take that excuse off the table. But yeah, I mean, if I didn't have him where he's like putting stuff in front of me and listening to me, right, and I was honest with him about everything, but he still didn't believe me until I gave that clean away. And once I gave that clean away, then everything that I have been telling him and been honest with him about has built even more trust, because then, I continue to give him clean UAs over and over and over again. Like I was going to UA like twice a week at my recovery program, and then with him, twice a month, well, once a week for the first couple of months, and then I started getting a break, and he started using clinical as my UAs, and then I would see him once a month for a UA, and that continued, and then things got lighter, and I started getting more of my freedom back, and little by little, and I won't forget the day that he texted me, and I got put on curfew. Let me go to this part first. I got put on curfew, 7:00. I had to be in the house, and at first, I was like, damn, that's kind of strict,
Back in elementary.
But I was still using it that time,
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck that, man. I'm not going. No, I'm not gonna. I'm going out. I gotta get whatever, and eventually I was like, 7:00, cool, man. I don't have to go outside after 7:00. I don't have to go pick up the kids from anywhere. They got to be home by then too, And eventually, I was thankful for that 7 p.m. curfew. I'm like, yeah, this is what's up.
That's pretty wild, huh?
Yeah. But regaining the trust of him, and the day that I asked him if I could take the girls to a movie one night, and he sent me a text back, and he says, curfew's removed. Curfew has been lifted, and I'm like, wow, okay, cool.
That's cool.
But then the day that I got the text message from him that my probation was over it was bittersweet, right? But he sent me the text, and he said, I'm putting in for early release, and I had 2 probations going on. One was for 36 months and one was for 24. We had already talked previously that the 36-month would probably still stay in place, and he sent me a text, and he says, I got both of them removed.
That's so cool.
I don't want to see you in the system again, and it's been nice knowing you. And that was the last text I got from him.
That's kind of like what Janan's probation officer did as well. Yeah, he was really cool. She got to where she could go in, and she wasn't UA'd anymore. And there definitely are some good ones out there. Our friend Mallory Roosh, who wrote the book Inspired to Recover that Brad has over there on his table, and she was a gal that I spoke with at our summit, and her story is so cool. And the gentleman that helped her was a parole officer. She was getting ready to be sentenced to about 30 years in prison at age 19 because of her addiction. And this guy comes barging into the courtroom and asked the judge if he could approach the bench, and they were up there talking, and basically as he passed her, says, I'll see you outside in the hallway. And she's like, what the hell just happened here, and the judge hit his gavel and says, I don't know what so-and-so thinks he can do for you because nothing else worked, but you're free to go. And she's thinking, free to go? I was just getting ready to be sentenced to 30 years in prison. What the hell's going on?
Somebody's seen something in her.
Yeah.
Though,
And she screwed up. She says, what does a good addict do? Man, I'm free. Let's go frickin' party. And she had the way it was put is she had no mistakes. One mistake, all he had to do was sign a piece of paper, send it to the judge. She's done. And she screwed up. And she went in to go see him, and he's getting this paper, and he's starting to fill it out. And she's like, what are you doing? He's like, writing a letter to the judge. Screwed up. Sorry.
He's violating her.
And she started crying and begging, saying, please, please don't. And she tells the story how he stood up. He was a pretty big guy, stood up and slammed his hands down on the desk, says, what do I got to do to get you to realize your life is worth living? And she told him, I don't want to be forced into recovery. I want to be inspired into recovery.
Okay.
And
I understand that.
And apparently this guy inspired the shit out of her, because now she has a book. She goes around and she's speaking. I've had the honor of having her on the show a little over a year ago. None of us knew one another. And now here we are, we're getting on stage with the likes of Dave DeRocher from the Other Side Academy, the executive director over there. We're all getting up on stage sharing our stories, and to see where she's going with it, and she promised this guy. And I won't want to tear the whole thing because her book is awesome. And I've heard her story quite a few times, and I still get inspired by it, and I still get tears in my eyes listening to her talk about it. And my wife's reading the book right now, and she's just freaking loving it. She is just like, oh my gosh, this is so flipping good. And it's because my wife gets it.
Yeah.
She didn't have a heroin addiction, but she gets the addiction part. She understands what she has been going through and what she has gone through.
Well, you and I talked a little bit at the barbecue, and about addiction's addiction, no matter what it is.
Absolutely.
It can be drug use, it can be alcohol use, it can be sex, it can be religion, it can be work, anything, and a lot of times we go through not thinking that we have a problem, and it takes losing everything to slap you in the face and say, look, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And man, if I could change the way that I did things, then it would be completely different. But like I said, I had to learn the hard way, and I'm still learning, but it's getting a little easier now. So
Easier, and I do believe life will get better. To share another story, when we were down in St. George, the same restaurant, and I won't name the restaurant, but the same restaurant that we all went to go have dinner at, and I told you the story about the waitress. So we're sitting there eating. Me and some other guys that I was with were ordering a bunch of clams. They had some kick-ass clams. Brad, you had some of those clams, didn't you? Did you have? Oh, you didn't have any of those clams. Laban and I and Nicholas had some clams. So anyway, I'm sitting there, and this hen hits on my shoulder, and I turn around and look, and there's this guy, and I knew that he worked there because I saw him walking around. He had his apron and stuff on, and he goes, "Hey, can I talk with you outside for a minute?" Okay, yeah, sure. So we get up and we walk outside, and where we're out sitting on this deck, you could still see everyone inside, and people are kind of looking like, what's going on? And he goes, I understand everyone here is pretty much in recovery. I said, yeah. And he goes, so you guys held a summit? And telling him about the summit. And he goes, I want to share something with you. And he goes, I used to be this big-time chef up in Park City.
Okay.
Made a shitload of money. $2 million home, had an airplane, bunch of vehicles. He says, I had a drinking issue. He says, by the time it was all done, I was sleeping in the back of a Jeep Cherokee. Lost my wife, family, house, plane, lost it all. And he said, that's a hard thing to take when you're making millions of dollars and you have pretty much anything you want. Go anywhere you want to go, and then you're sleeping in the back of a Jeep Cherokee.
Yeah.
And he's gone through his recovery, and now here he is. He goes, I asked him, I said, so are you the guy that's cooking these oysters? And he goes, yeah, you like them? I'm like, oh, hell yeah, they're damn good. And he goes, well, I'm also the owner of this place. Holy shit. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
That's what's up.
So it's really cool to see, because so many people a number of people that we've had on this show, and me getting to go out to a lot of these events, how like where I met you, to hear where life is taking these people, and they probably would have not ever been there if it wasn't for their addiction. That's right. How I'm seeing it, because it changed them. It changed them in a way, like I've told the story quite a few times on the show. When my wife was going to AA all the time, I'd go to AA meetings with her to support her. And this guy got up and he got his 5 or 10 year, 15 year chip. I don't remember what it was. And you know how a lot of times when they get their chip, they share a little bit about themselves. And right at the beginning, he's like, I thank God every day that he made me an alcoholic. And I leaned over to my wife and I said, that guy is nuts. Why would he thank God that he was an alcoholic? I don't get it.
Yeah.
And as he told his story, I finally started realizing why. And I was telling my wife on the way home that night, I'm like, you know, ever since 2009, I've been working on myself. I've been wanting to be a better version of me. I've been wanting to look at life differently. And I says, I know you call us normies, but I'm like, you addicts get it, you know, because my wife called me normie all the time. And she always did the finger thing. You're a normie, you know.
Because what is normal, right?
Yeah, what is normal, though? And, so, oh, my gosh, where was I going with it? Oh, and I says, but you addicts get it. One day you just wake up and that freaking light goes off.
Yeah.
And you understand. And I says, I'm still reading books and still working on things. My light bulb still hasn't gone. It's glowing, but it hasn't come on completely. And I'm like, now that I'm doing what I'm doing, it is one of the coolest things, you know, because my wife had to go through her addiction to get her to where she's at today and to get her to look at who she never thought she was.
Yeah.
And it's really helped me in my growth as well, because now I get to see this girl that's been wrapped up in a cocoon for so freaking long finally starting to break out and go, this isn't me anymore. This is who I am, and I'm going to freaking flourish, and I'm going to fly. And it's really helped me a ton in my growth, because I have had still doubts in myself going, I don't know if I can really get to this point in my life. I've been working my ass off so far, and I still feel like I'm treading in mud, you know, where you're taking all these steps and you've only moved like a foot, or you're on that steep hill with the loose dirt and you're going like crazy and you realize you've only moved like 6 inches because you keep sliding back down, you know, and it's really, really helped me. So the times, it's like that guy said, he thanks God every day. And I have thanked God, not every day, but I have thanked him quite often going, I get it. I don't get it completely, but I understand why I was put on this journey and why she was put on this journey, because it's really helping me open my eyes about life.
Yeah.
You know, and this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for my wife's alcoholism. I know for a fact it wouldn't have.
What do you mean by this?
How I'm looking at life. Okay.
Your
I really
outlook
don't
on
think
life, okay.
my whole outlook on life would be where it's at today if it wasn't for her addiction.
Well, would you have started a podcast? If it
No.
wasn't, right?
No, why? Why would I? You know?
They say in recovery, right? Like you're doing self-healing, and you, as long as you're healing yourself, the people around you can either get on board and heal and get healthy, or they'll get left behind. So her recovery is helping you as well to heal.
Yeah.
And because you've yourself gone through a lot of trauma during her addiction, right? And there's been some cuts that were deep that we all need to heal, right? So, I mean, that statement is so true, that like if we start self-healing and we start getting better in our recovery, then the people around us, they either get on board and heal as well, or they get left behind.
You know, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, Joe, because when I finally let my wife back in the house after her last drunken episode, and she ran into some really, really bad health issues, and my uncle did a blessing for her, which, like within 2 to 3 days, she finally started coming around. And once she had her mind back and herself back, I remember one day she came up to me and she goes, "Babe, you've changed." I says, no, I haven't changed. She goes, "No, there's something different about you. You've changed." She goes, "It's almost like you're getting on with life without me." And I've shared this many times on the show, and I said, you know, okay, yeah. I says, I am, because I cannot continue to be in this mess that I've been in. You know, I've allowed myself to be in it. I could have left any time. I'm not blaming her, because I allowed myself to stay, you know, there in that mud. But I says, I've got to get on. And I says, I want you to jump on this train with me. I really, really do. But if you think that this alcohol is more important and you want to stay behind, then that's your choice, but I'm going. I says, so either get on it with me or stay off. And I've also shared in some of my talks how when I fasted and I was listening, waiting to get answers and that, and how the word forgiveness kept coming up. And I remember saying, yeah, you want me to forgive her? Oh, heck no. Heck no, not through all this crap that she has put me through. And I finally realized he wasn't telling me to forgive her. He was telling me to forgive myself. Because I said a lot of mean shit to her. I mean, a ton. I did a lot of things wrong. Not everything that happened was her fault. But I was blaming everything on her. Once I started working on forgiving myself, I started seeing the forgiveness in her start happening. So what you just said, you nailed it, Joe. You nailed it. And I've read statements in books before and seen it on social media that the forgiveness is not to forgive the other person. It's to forgive ourselves so we can move on with our lives.
Yeah.
And that is so freaking true. You know?
Self-healing, right?
Self-healing, yeah. Because we've all done bad things in our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known a lot of people in my life, and we've all got skeletons.
Oh, yeah.
A closet full of them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to drug and alcohol, that seems to be like up on a pedestal. The people put it up. Society puts it here. That it's taboo. See ya. You're done. You're over with. When that's not really the case.
Right. We just
You know?
need somebody to give us another chance.
Give you the opportunity, yeah.
Like, we've given ourselves this opportunity or this second chance, or some of us third, or, you know. But we just need somebody to give us that chance. And, you know, when we're heavy in our recovery and it's fresh on our minds, and if we get that opportunity from someone from the outside, then that can really change somebody's thought process and the direction that they're going, and, you know, it'll keep them on their path. But if we as society continue to put our addicts, put me and all of my fellow addicts in a shame space, you know, and then all of the work we've put into our recovery, if we're not strong enough and we haven't healed ourselves enough, then we can go back into that vicious cycle.
Oh, yeah.
And fall back into our addiction deep and heavy again.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you don't get anything else out of this conversation with me, then take this to believe in recovery, because people can change. And, you know, and give addicts opportunities, man. And you'll see that they've reignited their motivation flame, right? They've reignited their inner, you know, their goals and their inner fire and drive, and ready for success, and want to do what they can to help wherever they can. And, you know, whatever company they work for, they'll invest themselves in. And, you know, and I think given that opportunity, we'll see a lot of success and some employees that will, you know, stick around, and businesses will be more successful. And, you know, there's not a lot of programs for just addicts, right? But there's companies get incentives for hiring inmates from prison. But if we could get that same thing from our recovery programs, and companies getting incentives for hiring, you know, those people, then I think we would see a lot more employee retention, and a lot more, you know, success with companies.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. System's broken. There's a lot of things that need to be changed, and we've talked about it many times. Brad and I, some of our road trips that we've gone on, we've talked about it many times. And you know, well, you saw here when we were having this little meeting before we started the show, you know, about Resilience Talk Network and you know what it's about. And there's a lot of people hurting out there right now. Something being at the state capitol yesterday, that literally I had to pick my jaw up off the ground. This gentleman got up and he goes that 200, it's either 95 or 65 deaths occur every day from overdose.
Yeah, it doesn't discriminate, man.
295 a day.
Yeah.
And then and I don't know, I'd have to do the math. Well, I'd have my wife do the math because she's better at it than I am. But I think they said every 13 minutes someone overdoses.
Yeah. If we could put Narcan in everybody's hands, regardless if you are using heroin or your loved one that's close to you is using heroin, like, even if you don't know anybody that is an addict right now, if you could still carry Narcan, like, you could find somebody, walk upon somebody, but you would be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
because overdose, it doesn't discriminate, and it will take the life of anybody it can.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a continuous cycle, and it's not going to stop until we can really make it a change. But,
Amen.
I think a lot of people don't realize that even people who have prescriptions for pain meds, they can overdose.
Yeah.
I had a cousin who had a prescription and she overdosed. And, if her neighbor, had Narcan and just went and checked on her or something, then things may have been different.
Yeah.
But, and make sure that it's up to date and it's not expired, and, and you know how to administer it.
We're working on getting some people on the show. Haven't found them yet, and I talked to a few people up there at the Capitol yesterday, and I haven't heard from them. Well, at least I don't know, because I don't check my phone during the shows. But yeah, I think we got to get someone on the show to talk a little bit more about that, to help educate more people on it. Yeah. Because it's definitely something that needs to get out there to help other people. Because I don't know, well, and again, of course, they're not with us, but you said you've overdosed a number of times. I mean, you don't want to overdose, right? That's not your intention. Your intention isn't to use until you overdose.
I mean, so you get so involved in your addiction, and you don't know what you get sometimes, right? Like, the batch could be one way or another, and and my PO said it to me best. Like, you don't know what you're putting in your body, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
And overdoses a lot of times are accidents, but you also have the ones where they're not, because they're so involved and so deep into their addiction that, like, they don't see anything different. They don't see another way out, so there was a time where I got high in the morning and I overdosed, and ended up releasing my bodily fluids, and my wife hit me with Narcan twice before, and then I came back, and as soon as I came to, I asked what time it was, and, like, I needed to get to work, and I bounced. And didn't think anything of it. Like, I didn't know what happened. Like, but she did, and the trauma that created for her,
imagine.
At one point in time, it was pretty heavy for me, but I've done some work on that, and she has too, I'm sure. But we've gotten through it, and I feel like the more we talk about it, the better chances we have of helping somebody survive.
Amen. It's the reason why we do this show.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Absolutely. Well, before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we go?
One day at a time, man. Okay. One day at a time, and drink the Kool-Aid if you're in a program. Work your program, work it for you, and find yourself healing and find the new you.
Love it. It's good advice. I love it.
You know, we recover out loud so others don't suffer in silence.
There you go. Well put. Yeah, we do. And that's the whole purpose. And again, that's the whole reason. One of the missions here behind this show is to get people to understand and also to get rid of that stigma.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I said it earlier, but 3 of the speakers out of the 5 speakers up at the Capitol last night talked about the stigma. And I went to a neighborhood protest of a sober living coming into a neighborhood, and a lot of the neighbors came over and they were protesting. And some of the comments that I heard I took a few pretty personal, because they're talking about my wife and they're talking about my friends. You know, and I took it pretty personal with some of the comments. And again, it's because their fear, because they don't understand. And again, it's the stigma that society has put out there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's time it comes to a stop.
And they are making some changes. Let's not take that away from them, because I mean, just recently they've put some people in the fire department, right? Where they get to go out and handle different situations that the firemen aren't trained to handle.
Yeah.
So they're making some moves.
Yeah, it's slowly changing a little bit.
But
you
not
know,
enough,
it really
not
is.
fast enough.
Yeah. And I mean, you know how us Americans are. We always want stuff like right now, right? You know, and there are some things I do believe that need to be stepped up.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tough subject. I still get upset seeing all these COVID commercials because they're talking about all this stuff, but yet we're not talking about 295 people dying every single day because of overdose.
Yeah.
You know, that's more than what's killed someone because of COVID.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
well, and it's consistent.
You know,
and it hasn't stopped.
Right. It's growing.
It keeps rising. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it keeps growing. Joe, thank you so much for your time. I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to meet at the USARA barbecue, and I'm sure we'll run into one another out at other outings.
Recovery
like that.
Day.
So we'll be at Recovery Day.
Yep.
Yeah, that's next week.
Yep.
That's next
Saturday.
week. So I think Brad's going to be there as well.
All right.
Last year we were planning on having some cameras out there and doing some quick little testimony things out there, but the schedule didn't quite work out. And plus it was raining like a son of a gun in the morning. Yeah, which isn't good for the electrical stuff. But again, thank you so much.
Yeah,
really do appreciate your time. Oh my gosh, guys. Hey, thank you so much. We really do appreciate all our listeners, all our many sponsors. None of this would be happening if it wasn't for you guys. And I forgot to say thank you to Brad and Resilience Talk Network on the first show. So I'm going to say it twice this time. So thank you to Brad and Resilience Talk Network. Again, all our many sponsors, our listeners. Gosh, there's just, this show just continues to grow, and it's because of you guys. And as we like to do, and sometimes I forget, when you guys watch one of our shows, please like and subscribe and share it with one person. I'm not asking you to spam all your friends or anything. Just take one show that you see that you like, or even if you don't like it, subscribe and like, and just send it on to somebody, because it really helps us. And you never know, that show just may help someone that's struggling that day, or the person you send it to may know someone that's struggling and they'll send it on. So everyone, thank you again for all your love and your support. Greatly appreciate it. And remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.